Hey everyone, it's been a while since I've done a nail tutorial, but today's design is for the monthly Music Manny collab on Instagram. This month's theme was to choose a song from the year you graduated, so I chose to do a design inspired by Lena's song Neon from 2013. To start, I applied a base coat to all of my nails. I used my regular base for most of my nails, but I used a peel-off base coat on my middle nails so that I'd be able to save my portrait of Lena. I then applied my favorite One Coat White Studio M's French tip to all of my nails except the middle one, and I added a latex barrier around my nails to help with cleanup. I then used a glitter polish with white and silver hollow glitter for my middle nail. This polish was a little less opaque than I would have liked, so I applied a latex barrier around this nail as well, and used a piece of makeup sponge to sponge the glitter onto my nail, reducing the number of coats needed. Then I removed the latex and painted on one last coat of the polish. Back to the rest of my nails. Once the white polish and latex barriers had dried, I took a new piece of sponge and added my neon colors to it before dabbing the polishes onto my nails until they were opaque. I like to use a new sponge for each nail, or at least rotate the sponge to get unique color patterns on all of the nails. Once each nail was opaque, I quickly removed the latex before moving on to painting Lena. For the decal of Lena, I started by applying a layer of top coat to my silicone mat, but the design can also be painted straight onto your nail. Once the top coat was completely dry, I used a detail brush and acrylic paint to start painting the outline of Lena. The reference photo I based my portrait on was the single cover for Neon, which has purple undertones, so I used a light dusty purple as my base for her skin. I allowed the first layer of paint to dry before going back in to add shadows and highlights. I applied a fresh coat of my base color and then added darker and lighter shades of purple and pressed the brush into the wet paint repeatedly to blend the colors into natural looking shadows and highlights. I always use an older brush for this step because the blending process can damage the bristles and ruin the detail brush. I just continued adding layers of paint and blending them until I was satisfied with the result. You'll want to work quickly during this step and complete small sections at a time because the result is dependent upon the paint blending while wet. If it's not turning out exactly how you'd like or you mess up, just let the paint dry and repaint the entire section with fresh paint. I allowed the base to dry before moving on to adding the facial features. I started with the mouth using a dark purple to outline the bottom and sides and filling in the space with a slightly darker purple than I had used for the skin tone. I then added some shadowing with a darker purple, focusing the shadows near the edges and where the lips part, and added highlights toward the middle of the lips. I placed the nose a little above the mouth using the darker purple to outline its shape. I used the darkest purple for the nostrils and added highlights with the lightest shade. I then outlined the eyes with black and used a medium purple for the irises and a dark, almost black purple for the pupils. I added white dots to show reflected light and then used 2 shades of gray to add the eyeshadow around her eyes. I then mixed 3 darker shades of purple to use for her eyebrows and hair. I used the middle shade to paint the base of her eyebrows and added a few lines of the lighter and darker shades to give the eyebrows depth. I then used black to add her eyelashes before moving on to her hair. For the hair, I started by using the darkest shade of purple to outline the shape. I then blended in the 2 lighter shades to add some highlighting to the hair. I also added a bit of black, concentrating it mainly around the temples and areas where the hair has more contrast. Like with the skin, this process took several layers of color to get right. Once I had finished the base of the hair, I added a few flyaway hairs with the darker colors to make the hair look more realistic. I then finished up my painting by going back to add some more shadows to the ear and neck. Once the paint was dry, I used an orange stick to gently remove the decal from my mat and trimmed it to better fit my nail. I then applied a layer of top coat to my middle nail and used my silicone stamper to press the decal into the wet top coat. Using a stamper helps to remove air bubbles, but you can also place the decal by hand. I used a cotton swab dipped in acetone to dissolve the excess decal around my skin and sealed the nail with a top coat. I also added some of the song lyrics to my other nails using black paint before top coating them and finishing the design. It was a bit of a longer process, but I hope you all liked this design. If you have a favorite Lena song, be sure to let me know in the comments below.